Hello, and thank you for joining me for the Conscious Self-Care Workshop. I'm Camie, and I'd like to just jump right in. So I'm going to share my screen, and this is in conjunction with A Time to Heal Cancer Foundation's 6th annual Art of Living Beyond Cancer Conference. And like I said before, this is the Conscious Self-Care Workshop, exploring how resonance informs our choices. So in order to begin, what I would like you to do is get a piece of paper and write down all of your titles and hats and responsibilities that you experience day to day. When I was creating this slide, I was writing down all of those identifiers, because in our culture, we use identifiers. And for this particular workshop, it's important to become conscious, to become aware of the fullness of who we are. So just take a moment and jot down some of your titles and hats that you wear. Obviously, on this slide, I did not include a wife, a mother, a friend, a caregiver. So I'd like for you to just take one of those titles, labels, hats. Just take one. And now follow the thread of experiences that you've had in relationship to that title or identifier or certification. Follow that thread of experiences that brought you to this point. And then look at another one. And do the same. Just follow that thread of experiences, feelings, thoughts, emotions, connections, people that are connected to that one title, label, identifier. We are so full of experiences and feelings and thoughts and emotions and beliefs that we bring into every moment. And becoming aware of that is part of conscious self-care. And that's what we're going to be exploring today. And looking at the fullness of who we are. It's like this harp with each one of these strings reflecting or representing a different life experience. And all of them create the wholeness, the fullness of who we are, just like all of these strings create the fullness of this instrument. And when we become aware of all of these experiences, it's no wonder life can feel a little bit out of control, a little spinning, and we get caught up. And my husband calls this production mode for me, when I get just caught up in my thoughts, in the doing, in the activity of life, and I'm not aware, and I just feel like I'm on this ride and I can't get off. And for me, this feels like stress. This is very stressful for me. And the definition of stress is that physical, mental, or emotional strain or tension. And it's also this feeling of like we don't have any control. It's our perception that the demands exceed the personal and social resources that we have or that we're able to mobilize. So this amount of stress that we're experiencing is directly connected to our perception. And as a result, sometimes life can feel like this. Can feel a little chaotic, a little crazy. Does this feel like, does that feel like your day sometimes? I know it does mine. When there's so much happening and I don't feel like I have control over it. Okay, so, and I feel like I'm going in circles. Okay, but what it can't. This feeling is the same as that, in that it uses the same strings. The chaos and the harmony it's created by using the same strings. And when we become aware that we have this choice, or that's conscious self-care. That's part of conscious self-care. But we have to make the choice. We have to make the choice to change from chaos to harmony. And change is not always easy. Some people experience change like this violent thunderstorm. It's like, oh, I don't want to let go. I want to stay with what's familiar. I want to stay with what's comfortable. Even if it's not comfortable, I still want to stay with it. Because it's familiar. And other people experience change like this flower that just opens naturally. And our ability to change is connected to what's called resilience. And resilience is our ability to adapt emotionally, physically, socially, cognitively, developing the tools that help us experience change in a less stressful way. And the good news is that resilience can be learned. And that's also part of conscious self-care. Expanding our perceptions and building resilience through our choices is part of conscious self-care. And when we think about it, everything is constantly changing anyway. Our cells are dividing. With every inhale, I'm changing. With every exhale, I'm changing. The light outside with the sun is changing throughout the day. everything is in a constant state of change. And I became very aware of this when I was going through my journeys with breast cancer, because I was changing every day, every hour, every moment. And that's actually when my conscious self-care journey began, because I had to make choices in respect to what was happening in the moment. And so I created this acronym for change: constant happenings affecting new growth experiences. And I like this acronym because it reminds me that change is constant, it's always happening, and I can continue to grow with those changes. It's like the seasons of nature. It just naturally goes from the winter to the spring, to the summer, to the fall. Just as we go from our infancy to teenagers, to adults, to old age. We are constantly in this motion of change. We have these seasons and these cycles. And we're not necessarily taught about all of these seasons and cycles within us, and that change is constantly happening. But what we are taught comes from other people. We learn about ourselves from other people, from our parents, from our teachers, our friends, our coworkers, other family members. And we incorporate what we've learned from other people into those beliefs that we hold about ourselves, into those choices that we make in every moment. Bayesian integration is the process of integrating prior knowledge from our past experiences with our current choices. And when we're uncertain about a choice, we naturally refer back to those prior experiences, which can lead to recurrent patterns of behavior until we become aware of it. Animals even do this. Researchers from MIT in 2019 wanted to understand how the brain encodes prior beliefs. So they trained animals to perform a timing task. It was a ready, set, go task. And the go is at different intervals. And they found that the animals' beliefs about when to expect that go led to different behaviors. And the researchers were also able to identify those distinctive neuronal activity in the frontal cortex that encoded these prior beliefs. Now, when I read about this, I had this memory of, I used to run track and, getting ready on the blocks. And you're just getting ready for the ready, set, go. And you have that anticipation and that feeling of, oh, when is it going to happen? So we all have this, or most of us have this experience of that feeling of, oh, the anticipatory, but it's based on our prior beliefs and experiences. And so because the brain is encoding and developing synaptic connections that bias our future decisions and choices based on the prior experiences. And being aware of this is fundamental to conscious self-care. Being aware of these subconscious patterns and behaviors and beliefs that create the wholeness of who we are. Realizing we bring all of these experiences into every moment is part of conscious self-care. I like this. Oh, here we go. I like this quote from Bruce Lipton, who is a cellular biologist. And he says, "The major problem is that people are aware of their conscious beliefs and behaviors, but not of subconscious beliefs and behaviors. Most people don't even acknowledge that their subconscious mind is at play, when the fact is that the subconscious mind is 1,000,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind, and that we operate 95 to 99% of our lives from subconscious programs." That says a lot. Our subconscious programs are motivating our choices, and we're not aware of it. Back in 2008, there was a study published in Nature Neuroscience that explored the unconscious and conscious choices. They had participants decide if they wanted to press a button with their left or their right hand. And part of the experiment was for the participant to let the researcher know when that decision was made, when they decided which hand they were going to use to press the button. Measuring the brain signals, the researchers found that it was possible to predict the participant's choice up to 7 seconds before the participant had consciously made their decision. 7 seconds. That is a long time. So I want to read a quote because what's important to note is the researchers did acknowledge, and I want to read this. "Our study shows that decisions are unconsciously prepared much longer ahead than previously thought. But we do not yet know where the final decision is made. We need to investigate whether a decision prepared by these brain areas can still be reversed." And I believe they can. And part of conscious self-care is being responsible and taking responsibility for these experiences and this awareness of these subconscious programs and patterns. And I feel that the more aware we become, the more sensitized and attuned to those choices that we're making. For example, I'm a treasure hunter. I love to discover new things about myself. And what I have discovered over many years of self-reflection is that many of my patterns of belief and behavior are directly related to being adopted when I was 1 month old. Now, I was adopted into the most loving family, and I've always known that I was exactly where I needed to be and raised by the perfect set of parents. But there was a deeper pattern. It was a subconscious memory, maybe, and I just created stories based on some of the interactions that I had with some of my siblings, and I just created this story that maybe I wasn't worthy enough. If I were worthy, then my birth mother would have kept me, which was a story, but it reflected my actions. So subconsciously, I wanted everybody to like me. And I didn't want to cause conflict because I wanted everybody to like me. so they wouldn't leave me, and so I wouldn't be alone. So that is a thread of beliefs that have influenced my behaviors. And now that I'm aware of it, getting back to this 7 seconds, it's like I can feel the, ooh, almost made that choice. Almost said this or didn't say that because I was afraid, didn't want the conflict, wanted them to like me. Ooh, almost did that, but I'm aware of this pattern. Oh, I can make this other choice now. So we're unhooking those triggers. Another example is when I was 9 years old, I was playing the piano, I'm singing, oh, if a picture paints 1,000 words, then why can't I paint you? And my dad peeked around the corner. Now, both of my parents are music teachers, and I adore them, okay? My dad peeked around the corner and he said, Amy, why don't you stick to playing piano? Oh. And my 9-year-old little girl's heart just sank. Because my dad didn't mean it in a malicious way. He was kidding. But what I heard was, Amy, you can't sing. Don't sing, just play piano. And that belief got embedded and affected my actions from then on. Even to this day, I write songs, but I don't sing them. I'm aware of the pattern, and I have to do some vocal training to feel confident in my ability to sing them, but I'm aware of the pattern. So we all have these types of experiences that affect our choices, that affect our interactions with other people, these beliefs about ourselves. So I'm just going to take a few moments and I'm going to play and allow you a little bit of space to write down, take some notes about what memories, what experiences might come into your awareness. Now, you don't have to go and dig into them, although research does show that as we explore these hidden aspects of ourselves, we are better able to deal with our own beliefs and behaviors, as well as understand beliefs and behaviors of other people. So this process of self-reflection is a very valuable step, especially in conscious self-care. So I'm just going to play for a few moments and allow you some time to just see what comes up into your awareness, right? And again, we're opening this pathway inside of ourselves to become aware of the experiences that are connected to some of our current behaviors and beliefs about ourselves. Were you surprised at what came into your awareness? Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, where'd that come from? But there's always a reason. And today we're talking about self-care and our patterns. So I would like to just ask a few questions. Do you often help others before taking care of yourself? Do you often feel there's no time for you? Do you often believe taking time for yourself is selfish? And do you often find it difficult to slow down and relax? I'll tell you, I answer yes to all of those. And over the years, I've discovered that there's a reason that I often take time and take care of other people before myself. Again, for me, that's connected to my feelings of worthiness and wanting everybody to like me, and I need to feel like I'm in control of the situation, and I don't want to be left alone. And of course, then there's no time for me because I'm taking care of everybody else. And when I do take a few moments for myself, sometimes jokingly, my family will make a comment and I feel guilty, feel like it's selfish. And yeah, when I get caught in production mode, it is hard to slow down and relax. It is. So even though I'm aware of conscious self-care, we're all human beings and everything is changing in every moment. And life happens. And patterns come up. So if you answered yes to any of these questions, I would invite you to explore, where did that belief come from? Why did you answer yes? Where did that pattern start? Who mirrored that pattern for you? How did you learn it? It's all connected to self-care. And what is your definition of self-care? Because it's different for everybody. There are so many different definitions of self-care. In fact, there was a paper by Dr. Christina Godfrey from the Queen's Johanna Briggs collaboration in Ontario, Canada. And she identified 139 different definitions. Her paper was called Care of Self-Care by Other, Care of Other. And what is your self-care challenge? What's your greatest challenge? Again, I'm going to take a few moments and allow you some space to reflect on what is your definition of self-care. What are some things that you might integrate in your day that you would label self-care? And what are some of your self-care challenges? So just take a few moments and jot down some of those ideas. when I ask an audience about what do they do for self-care, what are some of the activities that they do for self-care, the answers come back: meditation, eating right, exercise, getting a massage, saying no, going to yoga, taking a hot bath. And those are all wonderful self-care choices. And perhaps you had some of those on your list as well. And as far as the challenges, according to an article, Self-Care Research, Where Are We Now? Where Are We Going? In the October 17th, 2019 issue of the International Journal of Nursing Studies, it states that there are many challenges around self-care, including financial worries, our emotional state, stressful life circumstances, illness, chronic disease, and the influence of other people also was listed as a self-care challenge. You know, that pressure. And resilience is also a factor. You know, how easily we bounce back from adversity, from change, and from stressful life circumstances. So here we've got the self-care, the beliefs, the challenges, resilience, change. It's all connected. And for me, time was a big challenge. I just didn't have time, or I didn't think I had time. So self-care can be very complicated, and yet it's very personal. I'd like to do a quick review of what we've covered so far. So in the beginning, we recognized all of the life experiences that we bring into every moment, just like the strings of the harp. And all of those experiences are connected to beliefs about ourselves and habits and behaviors and feelings and thoughts and emotions. And sometimes it can feel really stressful and full, like the chaotic. All of these experiences are subconsciously influencing our choices. We're not even aware of it. Or when we become a little bit more aware, we can slow down and create some harmony in the moment. And that shift of perception, that expanding of perception, helps us perhaps feel less stress in our lives because we know that it's our choice. We're personally responsible for making those changes. And recognizing that change is constantly happening in every moment, that helps to build resilience. Conscious self-care is about expanding perceptions and becoming personally responsible, to then integrate the awareness of all that we have learned from others into the wholeness of who we are. And for me, the word I use for that embracing of all of those aspects of ourselves, for me, that's compassion. So conscious self-care inspires compassionate change as we become aware of these subconscious beliefs and behaviors that influence our conscious beliefs and behaviors. So now I'm going to preface this next section by saying I'm applying what I'm going to share in this next section metaphorically. I'm applying the concepts to our relationship with ourselves as it relates to other people. So I have a riddle for you. What do we all have? Yet most of us are unaware that we have this. And when we realize we have this, it can expand our perception and influence our choices. Sometimes an audience member will answer, it's free will, and yes, that's true. But it's not the answer to this question. The answer to this riddle, what do we all have, yet most of us are unaware we have it? When we realize we have this, it can expand our perception and influence our choices. What we all have is a resonant frequency, or a natural frequency. It is the frequency at which we most naturally resonate, what we most naturally vibrate. And we are vibrating because we're made of atoms, and atoms emit a frequency. Everything in our body emits a frequency. All of our organs, our blood, our bones have a frequency. And that's why sometimes you may hear, oh, we're like an orchestra. And when our bodies are in tune, we experience a healthy state of being. And when our bodies are out of tune, we may experience some dissonance or dis-ease. Well, that idea comes with the recognition that everything in our body has its own resonant frequency or natural frequency. And it's not just the physical matter in our body that emanates a frequency. It's also our emotions. And according to Dr. Candace Pert, she's a molecular biologist who wrote the book Molecules of Emotion, and she helped to bridge this mind-body connection. In an article called The Physics of Emotion, it states, emotions, Dr. Pert explains, are not simply chemicals in the brain. They are electrochemical signals that carry emotional messages throughout the body. These signals, a mixture of peptides, have far-reaching effects. Quote, as our feelings change, this mixture of peptides travels throughout our body and your brain. And they're literally changing the chemistry of every cell in your body and sending out vibrations to other people. Yes, our emotions are sending out vibrations to other people. So everything, including our feelings, has a resonant frequency, a natural frequency, a frequency at which it most naturally vibrates. So how does this apply to us with conscious self-care? Here's the next step. These tuning forks were created to sing, to resonate at 440 hertz. 440 hertz is their natural frequency. I'm going to strike one, and I'm going to put it on the harp so you can hear it. And then I'm going to put the other one right next to it, but I'm not going to strike it. I'm just going to put it right next to the first one. Let's see what happens. Can you hear it? I'll do it again. Now, why did that happen? I struck this one. It started to vibrate. It started to move and resonate, and it activated the sound waves. And the sound waves were moving, and this one started to sing too because it's the same frequency. Struck this, airwaves moved, activated this. This concept, and if you walk away with just one thing today, this is the one concept that rocked my world. It totally changed my perception of basically everything. So this one concept is called sympathetic vibration or resonance. When two objects of the same frequency come into close proximity to each other, they begin to sing together and they create a resonant system. Two objects of the same frequency come into close proximity. They create a resonant system. It's called sympathetic vibration. Another word for that is resonance. Now, it has to be the same frequency for it to be in resonance. So we experience sympathetic vibration all the time. And we're not aware of it consciously because many of us, we don't use that term. We use the vocabulary of feelings and emotions. You wake up. Oh, what do I feel like wearing today? Oh, what color am I sympathetically resonating with today? It's the same thing. Literally, energetically, vibrationally, that's what's happening. What do I feel like eating? What food am I sympathetically resonating with today? Who do I feel like being around? Now, I'm sure you've heard, oh, bad vibes, good vibes. We use this language. But this is exactly what it means. And I personally have chosen not to use the words good or bad in relationship to feelings, experiences. Because in our culture, these low feelings, okay, these heavy feelings, these heavy experiences, so many of us initially will label them, oh, that's bad. But are these low strings better or worse than the high ones? No, it creates the richness. this instrument needs all of these strings, all of these frequencies, all of these vibrations to create the wholeness of this sound. And we need all of the experiences within us to create the wholeness of who we are. So that's why I have chosen, to the best of my ability, not to use the terms good or bad in relationship to feelings and emotions and experiences. Sure, they may be low or they may be high, but they all create the wholeness of who I am. So I'm going to take this a step further. And you'll each get to do this in your own private setting. And then we'll talk about this on the other side. So what we're going to do is, on the count of 3, I am going to vocalize an ah. And I invite you to do the same. All right? So just join me. All right, 1, 2, 3. Ah. So how many of you changed? And why did you change, if you did? What prompted that change? And was it just something natural that you did? Or was it a conscious choice to change? When I do this with an audience, oftentimes or those who do, they say they change to my pitch. And the reason for that, what that is called, it is called forced resonance. It is the altering or changing of an object's resonant frequency by force to match an external frequency. So literally, when we started, and when I do this with an audience, I'm the loudest frequency in the room. And I literally forced you out of your resonant frequency. I was doing this presentation for a hospital here in St. Louis, and somebody said, "It's peer pressure." And it kind of is. It's kind of peer pressure. You know, we feel this external force, and it forces us to change from what we are naturally expressing or how we're being. So, metaphorically, what could also be happening, subconsciously, unconsciously, we start, and here you start vocalizing, oh, I'm not good enough, so I better match Amy, I'll change. Oh, I must not be doing this right, so I'll change. Oh, I must be wrong, so I'll change. Because what you're saying is, here I am. Here's my resonant frequency. Here's my natural frequency. This is the frequency that I'm most comfortable with. This is, my resonant frequency. Oh my goodness. But it doesn't feel right. So here's you, maybe, And perhaps this was my pitch. That was too high, but whatever it was. And it feels like this. Oh, that's dissonant. That doesn't feel good. That naturally does not feel good because we naturally want to be in a state of homeostasis. We want to be in a state of balance and harmony. So you can come up and match it. Oh, there's unison. Oh, that feels better. Oh, come into harmony. Oh, harmony. So we experience this concept of forced resonance all the time. Real life examples. You wake up in the morning, you had a great night's sleep, you went to your closet and you found exactly the color and the clothes that you sympathetically resonated with. You go to the kitchen and you find that piece of food, that breakfast bar or fruit or whatever you want to eat in the morning. Oh, that felt great. If you're driving to work, hit all the green lights. So you're having a pretty high vibrational day. Yeah, everything's in alignment, it feels good. And then, here comes, I think we all have a in our life, right? This person who is just, they feel so heavy. Sometimes people say, oh my goodness, here comes, I don't even want to use names. But we know this experience, right? They enter the room, and what happens? It's like, oh man, they brought me down. What happens here to here? It's just a resonant frequency. How does this happen? Remember the tuning forks? You wouldn't be able to feel it if it wasn't in you. You wouldn't be able to feel this frequency, this vibration, if it wasn't in you. Let that sink in. You wouldn't be able to feel this if it wasn't in you. Sympathetic vibration happens when two vibrations and two frequencies of the same, two objects of the same frequency come into close proximity to each other. They create a resonant system. That is exactly what happens when this person enters the room. Now, this person happens to have probably the strongest, heaviest vibration in the space because the low notes are heavier than the high ones. It's not better or worse, right? But because it's the loudest, through the concepts of forced resonance, unconsciously, this frequency inside of us gets activated, and it just brings us down, pulls our frequency down a bit. It's not that they did this to you or to us. It just happens unconsciously. And then we create this resonant system. Now, conscious self-care is about expanding perceptions. It's about embracing the fullness of who we are, recognizing that every life experience that I've ever had, I'm bringing into this moment. And every life experience that this person has ever had, they're bringing that into this moment. So this moment is full of vibrational energy. from our entire life and from their entire life. So we're aware of that. Now, with all of those experiences, you think there's going to be some similar vibrations? You think there's going to be some similar feelings happening? Absolutely. So conscious self-care also encourages personal responsibility. We get to become responsible for, oh yeah, I feel this getting activated. Oh yeah, I remember when I was having a low vibrational day. I remember when I was feeling low. Yeah, and then we get to see this person through different eyes because we have now inspired this compassion within us. So we can change this unconscious behavior of just coming on down. Now we're conscious. We're aware. Our perception has expanded. We're responsible for what we're feeling, this resonance inside of us. And our compassion for ourselves, and when we felt like that, way back when, is now present in the space. So we have that compassion for this person as well. And then we get to make a choice. And this is part of the conscious self-care choice. So what could happen in this situation is, if you can, you could leave the room if it's appropriate, and that's a conscious self-care choice. You could come down a notch, create this harmony. We used to have a saying in our house, my husband is 25 years older than I am, and then we had 2 boys. So when they were teenagers, we had 3 generations in our house, and that's a lot of energy. And sometimes the boys would just get a little too active. And we would say, just take it down a notch. We'd be down here just resting and being calm or whatever we were, and then they'd be up here real active, and we're like, just take it down a notch. Creates that sense of harmony. It doesn't have to match, just a sense of harmony, okay? But being aware. The other choice is to hold your higher frequency. Be aware and conscious of where you are. And we're going to talk about a few ways that we can do this easily coming up. But just being aware of that presence, because remember, we're emanating our feelings. We can sympathetically resonate this frequency in this person right here. They've had experiences where they had high vibrational days. They just don't remember right now, because right now, for whatever reason, they are here. And they just forgot. They forgot what it feels like to be up here right now. So if we are conscious and we're aware that we are emanating this frequency, perhaps they'll come up a little bit. They may not match to the same frequency that we are, but they may just come up a little bit, and it might help them feel a little bit better. Now, with this understanding, it's also important to realize and remember, and this is something that I continue to work on, especially for people who want to take care of other people and who are naturally nurturers. We cannot bring somebody up. As much as we want to say, come match me, come on, you can do it, come on, just do it, we cannot bring somebody up. It has to be their choice. So the way that we can do that is just by emanating the fullness of who we are, recognizing that, yeah, we have this frequency inside of us, but right now, we're just choosing not to activate it. We're just choosing, consciously choosing, not to allow that to activate within us. We recognize it. It's part of the wholeness of who we are. We embrace it with compassion. And because we are not judging that part of ourselves, they don't feel judged. When we don't judge ourselves, because we have this awareness and this expanded perception about the wholeness of who we are, when we don't judge ourselves, people don't feel judged. They feel safe. Because what they're feeling is that love and compassion that we have for ourselves. And that is huge. Now, I also want to just acknowledge that some people like to stay down here. They like it. They like to create this low vibration of chaos and heaviness. For whatever reason, it's connected to their patterns, right? And so if we recognize that, and we recognize, oh, that's just who they are, then we can just let them be. And we don't have to plug in. We don't have to allow their resonant frequency to affect our resonant frequency. Okay. So, as caregivers and as medical professionals, having this awareness is also really important to the relationship with patients. As a cancer patient, I can tell you firsthand, our energy is just blown out. It's exhausting to go through treatments and surgeries and the stress and the questioning and the fears. And so we don't have a lot of resilience built up. So when I just remember one time I was getting chemotherapy and one of the nurses, it was just a rough day. Just a lot of anxious energy, feeling stressed. I mean, that happens. But I felt it. And it made me nervous. And it made me more fearful and anxious because I was sympathetically resonating with her feelings in that moment. So, part of conscious self-care is turning the mirror and bringing our attention back to ourselves, even for a millisecond. And we're going to go through some really practical ways to do that. And I would encourage you to just build a toolbox of ways that you can bring your attention back to yourself just even for 5 seconds before an interaction with a patient. Because when we've got that compassion within ourselves, when you feel that compassion within you, I'll feel it within me as a patient through sympathetic vibration. And I am so grateful because my medical care was just extraordinary. And I know that is the intention of all of you, all of those who have chosen to care for others. That's part of the wholeness of who you are. And I'm just here to encourage you to also care for yourself, because it's really important. And it affects energetically that relationship you have with all of those that you care for. Okay. So now I'd like to take this one step further, and we're going to start to clap. All right? All right. Perhaps you started to clap along with me. When I do this in an audience, everybody starts clapping together, okay? What that is called is, that is called entrainment. Entrainment is the rhythmic aspect of resonance. And entrainment was discovered by a Dutch physicist who was also the inventor of the pendulum clock. And he noticed that when he put clocks on the wall, they would begin to sync up with each other. They would begin to synchronize. And that's what is called entrainment. It's when two independent rhythmic systems interact with each other in such a way that they eventually lock in, sync, or phase. Now, entrainment is another powerful concept of resonance. When we become aware of how often we're affected by entrainment. And we are affected by entrainment a great deal because we have three main body rhythms that are affected by entrainment. Now, we have a lot of body rhythms, but I'm just going to focus on these three right now: the brain waves, the breathing, and the heartbeat. These are three rhythmic systems, and they entrain with each other. Our breathing entrains with our brain waves. Breathing entrains with our heartbeat. And we experience this all the time as well. So, have you ever been at a stoplight and a car comes up and the bass is going whoom, whoom? Oh my gosh, that hurts my chest. That hurts my heart. Because literally, this external rhythm is trying to force my natural heartbeat out of its rhythmic patterns to match this external. And so there's this thing going on, and it hurts. But this is what entrainment is. When these two independent rhythmic systems are trying to come into phase to each other. And the bass was overpowering my heartbeat. I didn't feel good. Think of the hospital setting. Boom, boom, boom. All these unexpected alarms go off. Oh, it's shocking our natural rhythms. That's entrainment. Ministers, politicians, public speakers, they know about entrainment. They may not consciously know that it's called entrainment, but what happens with a minister, a politician, a public speaker, our voice, their voice, they speak in rhythmic patterns, in cadences, all right? And our brain waves entrain with their rhythm, with their pace. And there's some people that just talk really, really, really fast, and we're like, oh my gosh, will you please slow down? Because I'm trying to understand what you're saying, but you're going too fast. My brain waves cannot keep up with you. And then there's other people that talk so slowly that we just want to go to sleep because our brain waves are slowing down, our breathing is slowing down, our heart rate is slowing down. through entrainment. When our youngest son was little, he would ask me to come and lie down with him before he went to bed sometimes if he had a hard time going to sleep. Because he knew that I would consciously change my breathing patterns. And I would do it so he could literally hear it. So I go inhale. And his breathing would entrain, which naturally slowed down his brain waves and his heartbeat, and he would fall asleep through entrainment. Having an awareness of this is really helpful when we're interacting with other people. It could be an anxious child, it could be an anxious patient, family member. If somebody is in our space and they're just like agitated and they're worried and they're if we just consciously become aware of our breathing, or even the pace at which we're speaking, we may want to match their energy initially to sync up the sympathetic vibration, and train those rhythms so it's comfortable, and then we can slowly start calming everything down by slowing our speech, slowing our breathing patterns, all through entrainment. It's a really powerful concept to be aware of. And it's very useful. So what I'd like to do now is just take a few moments, because we've covered a lot of information. These concepts of resonance, that everything has a resonant frequency, including our feelings. Sympathetic vibration happens when two objects or feelings of the same frequency come into close proximity. They create a resonant system. This is why we can feel different emotional states of people around us, and they can feel ours through sympathetic vibration. We now understand the rhythmic aspect of resonance. It's called entrainment. And we bring the fullness of who we are into every moment. I love this image because it's this visual representation of all of the people that we've met, that we've had connections with, that we've had experiences with, that have taught us about who we think we are, that helped us develop our beliefs and our behaviors and our patterns that we subconsciously bring into every moment, into every choice. And now we have this expanded perception about how resonance is informing those choices. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and allow some space for this to integrate. How can you incorporate this awareness of resonance, sympathetic vibration, forced resonance, and entrainment into your day, into your interactions with other people, into the choices that you make? I'm just going to play for a little while and just allow that to settle. Just take some notes. Visualize your day, like from the time you get up. Who do you interact with? What choices are you making? And see if this expanded perception of resonance offers you the opportunity and the confidence to make different choices or to change some of your choices. All right, so I'm just going to play for a few minutes. It may take some time to integrate this awareness of resonance into your conscious self-care choices, into those moment-by-moment choices and interactions. But we're planting seeds right now, just expanding some perceptions. And because today we're really talking about self-care, I want to circle back around and review. Let's go back and review what were your conscious self-care, or what was your definition of self-care from the beginning? And what was your challenge? What were some of your challenges? In the past, my definition of self-care, it was about something I had to do. It was something else to put on my to-do list. I had to go someplace to do something for self-care. And that's why time was an issue for me. And when I was going through cancer and I really started this journey of taking care of myself, I decided to redefine self-care just because I could. And so my definition of conscious self-care is any intentional choice that supports our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and or creative well-being. I wanted to include it all. And I chose those very specific identifiers because those aspects, those physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, creative, those aspects are part of a system that I've used with my husband for over 30 years called the Origin Methodology of Self-Discovery. And in this system, spiritual is not religious. Spiritual is our relationship with ourselves, our beliefs about ourselves based upon those experiences from the past. And I love this image because it reflects the stones on top, which is that conscious part, and the stones and the reflections underneath that are supporting and influencing and balancing. I love this image because it reflects such a sense of balance. So conscious self-care is any intentional choice, simplified, that supports our well-being. Any intentional choice that supports our well-being. So, a few months ago, I opened the freezer and there was a tub of ice cream. And there wasn't that much left. So I reached for a bowl or a cup to put the ice cream in, and I stopped myself. And I'm like, why am I reaching for this cup to put the ice cream in? I really want to just eat it out of the tub. But I never eat ice cream out of the tub because it can be gross, and we've taught our kids not to do it. Don't double dip. It's not good manners. There's a lot of reasons why you don't want to eat ice cream out of a tub. And my subconscious choice to reach for that cup, I was able to stop myself and say, why? Why do I feel I need to put it in a cup when all I want to do is eat it out of the tub? There's not that much left anyway. So I was aware of this pattern of being judged, which is connected to my worthiness. Because if I did eat it out of the tub and somebody caught me, I'm sure they would say something, even if it was a joke. And then I would feel judged, and then I would be triggered, and here comes the spiral and the pattern. See how it's all connected? But in that moment, I was aware. I was conscious of my action, of my choice. And I chose not to get a cup or a bowl. I chose to eat that ice cream out of the tub. It tasted amazing. And I was aware that I was aware of a pattern. And eating ice cream out of a tub was a conscious self-care choice. Very intentional. And it felt good. It felt good. It felt freeing. And the more we're able to make those types of choices, the easier it gets. I didn't have to go someplace for self-care. I just had to become aware of a pattern of behavior that was connected to a past experience that was finding its way back into the moment because it was triggered by what I was about to choose. And then I was able to make a different choice. I was able to change. And in that conscious choice to change, I'm changing my brain waves, and I'm building resilience, and I'm feeling empowered, and I'm supporting myself in a loving, compassionate way. Oh, it felt great. And I wasn't judging myself. That's a beautiful result of conscious self-care, is that when we become aware of these patterns as just the wholeness of who we are, then I can stop judging that pattern. And shame and guilt and blame start to dissolve and transform. Because I'm becoming aware of the wholeness of who I am from this place of loving compassion. And then I can see other people through those eyes. And that affects my relationships and my interactions with other people as well. So every choice can be a conscious self-care choice. Every choice can be a conscious self-care choice. And every choice changes our brain, creates new synaptic connections, and helps us to boost resilience, to build these different ways of choosing within the moment that then helps us shift our perception about what's happening in the moment, which may directly help reduce the amount of stress that we're experiencing in the moment. So here are just a few ways to bring yourself back into the moment. Just closing your eyes. Closing your eyes. We spend so much of the day focused on the outside. And that intensity, sometimes I just get the tension right here. And I just come upstairs and I'm like, I just have to close my eyes. And take a deep breath, and it feels like everything just relaxes. Everything just expands and opens, even if it's just for 5 seconds. Just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just visualize everything relaxing in your head as you exhale. That's a conscious self-care choice. You've just brought your attention in that millisecond back to yourself. While you have your eyes closed, remember your favorite vacation. What were you doing? Who were you with? What's your favorite memory while you were on vacation? Or what's your favorite memory of when you felt a certain way? Pick an adjective. Pick a feeling. Joyful, free, peaceful. Whatever that is. And whenever that happened for you, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and go there. Just go there. Remember that moment in time, that memory of when you felt a certain way, or you are having a specific experience that it's your favorite. Can you feel your body just relaxing a little bit? Yeah, our body changes when our memories are activated. Those feelings, those chemicals. And whatever you tapped into right now, put it in your back pocket and remember it, because that is like a flip switch, like turning on and off a light. When you're feeling stressed, or you just need a moment to regroup, or you're recognizing that you're spinning like on that ride, take a deep breath and pull that out and remember it. Give yourself 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and go there. That's conscious self-care. That is an empowering choice. Focusing on our exhale. You can close your eyes or keep your eyes open. When we get nervous or fearful, our natural tendency is to hold our breath. And when we exhale, it helps our body relax. And yes, we know this, right? Focusing on our breath, helping our body relax, that's not new information. But when it's connected to a conscious self-care choice, it's not just focusing on the exhale or the inhale. It's recognizing that we're changing the rhythmic pattern of our breath. And we know it's going to entrain with our brain waves and our heartbeat. We are aware that our breathing and our brain waves and our heart rate entrain with each other. So we're not just focusing on our breath because somebody told us to do that, or somebody said it was going to work. We're doing it because we're aware that it literally is shifting the rhythmic patterns within our body. Closing our eyes, or keeping them open, whatever you're comfortable with. Put your hand on your chest and just hum. Can you feel that vibration? Can you feel that resonance within your body? That pitch, that frequency of your voice is sympathetically resonating the cavities within your body. All of those atoms within your body. You're saying, oh, here's my resonant frequency. Come on, body, get in tune. Let's all sympathetically resonate. It's like giving yourself an internal massage. And this is something that you can do in your car, before you go to bed, in the bathroom, while you're cooking. I do this a lot during the holidays when life feels a little chaotic. Just brings your attention back. It uses your own voice. It uses your resonant frequency. And it's bringing harmony to your body, all those different aspects within you. Another simple way to just bring ourselves back into the moment is to slow down and look up at the sky. Become aware of the light, the sun, the clouds. Remember that change is constant, and we're part of that. We're part of those seasons and those cycles. And for me, when I remember that, I exhale a little bit deeper, And I realize that whatever I'm trying to control in the moment is often a result of some of those past experiences, those past fears, my resistance to change. When I look up at the sky and remember that change is constant, and its constant happenings affecting new growth experiences, I can, what can I learn about myself? Why was I resisting? Why was I getting caught up in my to-do list? And then with every meal can be an active conscious self-care series of choices. As we're eating, every bite of food has a whole lineage of energy from seed to table that brought that piece of food to us. And we're ingesting it. And that energy is sympathetically resonating within our bodies. Perhaps this awareness of resonance may help change some choices. What do we want to put in our bodies? What vibrational frequencies, what energy from that food do we want to invite in to become part of our frequencies? It's all so intimately connected. Laughing is another conscious self-care choice. It moves the energy within us. And then just slowing down and listening. Yeah. What do you hear? Stretching and moving our bodies. Feeling the energy that might be stuck. How do you want to move that? So this brings the awareness of how this concept of resonance also directly relates to the complementary and alternative therapies that so many people are seeking out right now. The healing touch, the massage, the acupuncture, the Reiki, the essential oils, all of it, it's energy, and it's sympathetically resonating those aspects within us to help us come into a sense of balance, a state of well-being. So it's no surprise that a recent study indicated that 20 to 30 minutes in nature, especially for people who live in the cities, could reduce cortisol levels. For me, this makes total sense, because nature is inherently balanced. So when we put ourselves in nature, we are sympathetically resonating with the frequencies of nature. We're helping our bodies remember that natural state of balance and harmony. And that's why, for me, it makes total sense that we want to bring nature inside. Putting a plant on our desk, yeah, it helps us sympathetically resonate with that vibration of the plant, with nature. Bringing stones into our space, candles, water, the elements. All of these choices are based on resonance and how we are sympathetically resonating with that which is around us. and within us, because it's connected. Another way to become aware of conscious self-care choices is to become consciously engaged with our senses. And for me, often I just go through my day and I'm sensing without any awareness. I'm eating my food pretty quickly without necessarily tasting it. I'm just allowing the sounds in the space to just happen. I'm not really paying attention to them. But when I slow down and actually listen, I hear all of these different sounds. And when we slow down even more, we start listening to ourselves. I have a harp student who was a grandmother, and she was babysitting her grandson. And he was rubbing his eyes while he was getting ready for bed. And she said, "Well, sweetheart, are you tired?" And he said, "Well, Nana, I've been looking all day." And I just love that story because it's so active. He was actively engaged with what was around him all day. How often do we look at the people we're engaged with? How often do we look into the mirror and really see our eyes and our skin and our eyebrows? Really look versus just seeing. Touch is another sense that helps us come into the moment. A lot of times I get so busy I feel like I'm literally out of my body. And so just taking just a few seconds, it doesn't take a lot of time, to just feel my skin helps me to come back into this moment, become very present. So you might be asking, some people have asked me, so Amy, isn't this just mindfulness? And it's not, it's different. We have a saying in our house, it's called same action, different core. And what that means is an action can look the same on the outside, but it's coming from a different place within us. It's coming from a different awareness, a different connection within us. So there's another level of awareness that we've connected consciously to that action. So mindfulness is a type of meditation in which you focus on being intensely aware of what you're sensing and feeling in the moment without interpretation or judgment. And it involves breathing methods, guided imagery, and practices to relax the body and the mind to help reduce stress. So it's without interpretation. It's becoming aware of the moment, but we're not interpreting it. With conscious self-care, it is a very intentional choice, every intentional choice that supports our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and/or creative well-being. Practicing conscious self-care involves becoming aware of subconscious patterns and how resonance informs our choices. It's a very active engagement with every choice, with every behavior, with every pattern. So it is a little different than mindfulness. Mindfulness could be a conscious self-care choice. Absolutely. So I hope that offers a little bit of distinction. And listening to music is a conscious self-care choice. So many of us use music in all sorts of different ways. It's part of who we are as human beings. It's part of our culture. And we use it in a lot of different ways. As it relates to conscious self-care, I would like to just take the next few minutes and offer a couple experiences so that you can consciously choose music for very specific ways. So what I would like you to do is just take a deep breath, and I'm going to play something, and then we'll talk about it. Right? So what happened? Did you have some memories come up? Auld Lang Syne is part of New Year's Eve. Were you singing the words? Perhaps you were remembering loved ones who you were with during New Year's Eve, loved ones who are no longer with us. And there's a lot of memories for many people with that piece of music. And now I'd like to play something else. We'll see how that feels. Oh, that felt so good. So how did that feel? Did you know it? I know you didn't, because I didn't even know it. I was just playing what was coming through in the moment. It felt amazing. And it's unfamiliar for everybody who just listened to it, right? We didn't have any emotional connection to it. We didn't have any memories connected to it. And this idea of familiar versus unfamiliar music is something to be aware of when we're choosing music as a conscious self-care choice. Because music has this rhythm, right? And it's going to entrain with our rhythmic systems, our brain waves, our breathing, and our heart rate. Yes. So it's hard to say, Auld Lang Syne may have felt really relaxing because of the pace, because of the rhythm, the tempo that I was playing. And so our breathing and our heart rate slow down. But we had the memories, we had the connection to these prior experiences also present, right? And with the second piece, we didn't have that connection to memories. Now, why is this important? I'm going to share my screen again. Because our brain waves are in training with this music as well. And when we want to relax, there's two brainwave frequencies that we want to be aware of. The alpha frequency, the beta frequencies, which is when we're awake and conscious and alert. They're like this, right? This is the beta. And when we're worried or concerned, we've got the high betas, so they move a little bit faster, okay? So it's the rhythmic patterns you see on the screen pretty much reflect the feelings that we experience when these brain waves are active. So the alpha frequency is just a little bit slower than the betas. Right? Now, why am I focusing on these two particular frequencies? It's because the beta waves, again, are active when we are alert, we're thinking, we're conscious, and they're like gatekeepers for our memories. So the familiar music activates the memories that are carried on the beta waves into our awareness, like we're remembering them. And so they're active. We may feel relaxed, but our brains are still in this aware, conscious thinking mode. Whereas with the second piece, we didn't have the betas as active because there weren't memories associated with it. So the betas could calm down a little bit and the alphas could increase. And we experience this increase of alpha waves as a relaxed, tranquil, kind of daydream feeling. So the unfamiliar music lowers the betas and helps increase the alphas. So why is this important to be aware of? Well, when we're choosing music as a conscious self-care choice, we ask ourselves, what do I want to experience? How do I want to feel? We all have our favorite music that we know makes us feel a certain way. And we go to it when we want to re-experience those feelings, or we want to remember that connection that we had in the past to those songs. And familiar music also helps us feel comfortable and safe. If you are working with, say, a patient, and you know they just need something, perhaps you could ask, what's your favorite memory? What's your favorite piece of music? And find that music for them to listen to, because it's going to activate those memories. And on the other hand, if we want to use music to help us relax, and that includes relaxing our brain as well, then choose music that's instrumental. Because if we have words to the music, our betas are going to be activated. We're going to be conscious and aware. And if it's just instrumental, then those betas can calm down a little bit. So the minor keys and the major keys. You don't have to be a musician to understand this, but you can be aware of how it feels. So that's a major key. That's a major key. It's pretty bright. It feels open. That's a minor key. It's more reflective. Some people describe as happy and sad. It's really more just open and bright and introspective, going inside. Another consideration with music is the rhythmic pulse, the rhythmic beat. Knowing that music is going to entrain our brainwaves, breathing, and our heart rate. If we really want to relax, we want to choose something with a slower pulse, all right, and not too much rhythm. So from this perspective of using music consciously, all music can be healing, all right? If we use the definition of healing as balance, coming into a sense of balance, right? I particularly don't choose to listen to bagpipes too often, but for somebody who has a cultural heritage where bagpipes are part of those experiences, that just brings such peace and joy and comfort to them. And sometimes, again, our background, those experiences from our past influence all of our musical choices, right? I wanted to share just briefly when our kids were growing up, I would drive them to school, and we would listen to heavy metal music. Yeah, I didn't realize that there were so many categories of metal music, but I've been educated. So it's interesting because I was aware of my resistance to listening to it, because all the growling and the heavy drums and the power drums and the guitars, and it was just so intense. And then I realized, I'm feeling this intensity because that's inside of me. And it's activating what I'm resisting, what I don't necessarily want to listen to, or within myself. And so it was just a whole journey of self-discovery using heavy metal music to help me get inside myself. And one specific, this isn't heavy metal, but this was intense music. The Halo soundtrack is very orchestrated, and it's a video game. And so we were listening to the music on the way to school. And when I got home, I just stayed in the car and I left the music on. And I consciously just closed my eyes and I visualized all of that intensity, all of those vibrations, just like entering my body. And I allowed them to find the resistance. It's a very cool meditation. And it was literally like I was visualizing like strands of DNA, just all the cleaning out. It was like this internal cleansing, consciously using the vibrations of this music. It was so powerful. And it's not a typical piece of music that somebody would call healing. But when we listen to music consciously, and we allow it to sympathetically resonate within us, we can learn so much about ourselves. And all music can be healing. And to briefly continue this awareness of music, I want to, let me share my screen one more time. I want to bring attention to, share, okay, I'm sorry. The difference between music therapy and therapeutic music. There's a lot of research happening right now exploring the impact of music on the healing process, on the body. And a lot of that research is getting grouped under music therapy. And I'm excited that the research is happening. But I also feel like there's a lot of variables that are not necessarily being addressed in some of the research, such as the performer's ability, the specific instruments, the tempos, the keys, the delivery system of the music. There's a lot of checklists that need to be addressed as we move forward in developing research with music. And there's a difference between music therapy and a new field, a relatively new field called therapeutic music. And I would just like to articulate the difference for you so that, again, you're aware. So music therapy uses music in a very specific way to elicit a very specific outcome. Therapeutic music, which is what I play as a certified clinical musician, we use music in a way that helps to create a healing environment, to help the body, mind, and spirit find a place of wholeness. We consciously integrate what I've demonstrated here today. We integrate the awareness of resonance, sympathetic vibration, forced resonance, and entrainment when we are in the presence of a patient, when we're playing bedside, because we're adapting our music to the patient's needs. Versus the music therapist who uses specific music to elicit a specific outcome. One is very directional. The music therapy is very focused for an objective. The therapeutic music is more rounded, more open, without any expectation or intention other than just supporting the patient in the moment. And so these differences are key to understanding the fullness of how we can integrate music and use music within a healthcare setting. And patients need both. They can benefit from music therapy and therapeutic music. There's no competition there because we're using music in very different ways, and it supports each other. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention as we all start to integrate music in more conscious ways. So to bring this full circle, taking care of ourselves is vital because our frequency, our resonance, our energy ripples out and affects those around us through the concepts of sympathetic vibration, forced resonance, and entrainment. And so the more comfortable we are in taking care of ourselves, that emanates into our work environments, into our home environments, into our social environments, and with our relationships with other people. They feel that compassion that we have for ourselves and for all these aspects within us, and for the recognition of all the subconscious patterns that we bring into every moment, and recognizing that they bring all of their subconscious patterns into every moment as well. And when we're not judging ourselves, they don't feel judged. And when we're emanating this sense of harmony, and we're responsible for our choices, and we have this expanded perception, yet they feel safe and comfortable in our presence. And it's all through resonance. Because conscious self-care is any intentional choice that supports our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and or creative well-being. It's every intentional choice that supports our well-being, that supports you, all of you, every aspect, feeling, belief, experience, pattern. Every choice can inspire that compassionate change within us that builds resilience, that helps us perceive the moment, perhaps in a less stressful way, because we feel empowered and personally responsible for those choices that we're making from that place of loving compassion within ourselves. So as we recognize how resonance informs our choices, we're empowered to consciously choose within the moment, knowing that change is constantly happening. And it happens one conscious choice at a time. The change within us, the change of those subconscious patterns happens one conscious choice at a time. So I'd like to end with just a few minutes of music to just help integrate this awareness. Feels good to just exhale. Thank you for spending this time with me. For more information, feel free to visit atimetohealfoundation.org or amycamie.com. Have a wonderful day.